Steve, you've had a bit of time now after a whirlwind build up to the Birmingham game. So how do you reflect on that performance and getting your feet back under the table?
Well, of course, the performance had lots of pluses to it, didn't it? Obviously, it still had lots that we need to get on the training ground and work with the boys as to how we want to play. But and certainly in respect of the players producing a performance full of great determination, effort, which is the minimum for any side I've managed, especially here at the New York Stadium. I think the boys did that, and some big players, some big characters stood up, probably advised and thought they wouldn't play again this season. Then, you get them in the office and you have a chat and you persuade them it's worth pulling on that Rotherham United shirt, and they've done us proud with the performances. So, yeah, the training ground has been upbeat. We've been working incredibly hard, and we've got a last away game of the season, and we're going to a brilliant stadium and a real good opponent, coached by a good manager.
Your return just seems to have given everybody a lift. The fans, the chairman, the team performance. Have you felt that as well?
Yeah, very much so. In and around the town and even further wide has been incredible. The response is that they want their team to play as Rotherham United have become famous for, not over my time or even Warney's time or well before that in the times at Millmoor. It was always known as a team that had industry all over it, and maybe we've gone away a little bit from that to the true DNA of this football club, which is of good players who have lots of quality but working incredibly hard to make any differentials up when we're at the level such as the Championship.
8th of November 2022, Steve. That's the last time that Rotherham United won an away game. If you can end that run this weekend, how much of a further lift would that provide everybody?
Yeah, it probably feels it was that long ago that Tommy Docherty was the manager. To some Millers fans, it probably feels that long ago. And but yeah, listen, we pride ourselves in being able to get points on the road, because your home form is absolutely massive in whatever you'll achieve in the season. But you need to be capable of going away and getting a win. And how you get that win can be subjective to playing really well, to having a structure and a defensive performance, but getting a win. I think it would be good to go into the new season, which of course will be in League One, but to get into that new season with that little statistic long gone. So, but we know how difficult it'll be. But it's far too long for any club not to have won an away game. It's a frightening start, but it's one that I'm sure the players and myself and the coaching staff I'll be doing our best to put right, Rob.
Ollie Rathbone and Hakeem Odoffin have had their options taken up. Can you give us a thought on that? And also, will there be any talks with them about extended contracts?
Yeah, as you can imagine, I've spoken to most, if not all, the players and the staff. And obviously the boys with the options, we have a fixed and limited amount of time really to speak to them. But I've seen Hacks and I've seen Ollie many times. I did like them when they played against my teams, like many players. But I thought particularly Ollie and Hacks were really good on Saturday. They gave us everything that we asked. We need more. We spoke about that, but I spoke to the players simply about, is the manager of the football club and charged by the chairman and the board to get things sorted and put into place. Then had a little chat with Rob Scott, one with Paul Douglas, and I told both players we'd be taking up the options, but with a view that when we come back in the summer, I'm not going to rush them, but when we come back in the summer, we'll have a view to doing something more longer term, or feels more permanent, more loved, if you like. Both have got big parts to play, and we want our good players here. It's as simple as that. So both lads were accepted how it would work, accepted they also needed a break. It's been a longer season for those two than me. I've been used to winning football matches, they've not, and that's always a drain. So both those lads, we made it clear what was happening. So they're very happy this morning.
How's Cafu and Peter Kioso, two players that you lost in the first half the other day?
Yeah, both won't be available for us on Saturday. Then point me dressed it up, whatever it was. It's nothing major with either. It's probably the best part of 2 weeks, but when it happens with 2 weeks to go, it's never ideal. I thought Cafu was having a real influence in the game. He was statistically got on the ball a lot more in the areas you want him to get on the ball, which is attacking their goal more than probably most, if not any game this season at the New York. And Peter Kioso is a really good player. You know, my mind boggles as to why he's in League One when he's a Rotherham United player, because he was excellent, stunning at times for Peterborough United, and that wouldn't have mattered who Peterborough played. Of course, they played higher ranked teams in the Cup, and Peter was still the same. So, but having a chat with PK, told him he's very much in the plans, and you know, we'll lose those two, but not for the longer term.
Do you like that side of being a manager, Steve? You know, putting your arm around a player, you know, making them feel loved, getting them to sort of buy into the football club that you're managing?
Yeah, I think it's the people that outside the clubs that I've managed who don't see it and don't want to see it, because we produce individual performances that make it good collectively. You know, we've done that, myself and Paul, and we've tried to do it all our careers. It's quite right for why I'm still in touch with some of the players we've sent on the most wonderful journeys. You know, your Ivan Tonys and Sariki Dembele, who of course was on the bench here for Birmingham against us, you know, and Charlie Taylor's, Chris Woods, you know, lads that perhaps needed to be loved at a certain stage in their career. And my job is to come in and, as well as assess and analyse, I need to make sure that those players feel a warmth from the manager, because they have to want to play for themselves. They have to want to play for the supporters and the football club they represent, but they also have to want to play for the manager, and that's what we've tried to do in the immediate term. And perhaps a little bit of it has worked with some of the players coming back, because they feel loved, they feel a future, they feel they want to play. And if I was a player or you were a player, I'm sure we'd both want that.
Fans are really rallying around the goalkeeper Victor Johansson, anticipating that they might be about to watch his last couple of games for the club. He's been a real servant, hasn't he, for the team? And again at the weekend, Steve, showed how important he has been. Yeah,
listen, I think it's well recognised throughout football, and I know Victor's representative have not been short in putting it in the media domain to people like yourself, that there is clauses where Victor can go into new pastures. Listen, he's got absolutely a huge amount of interest in him, and I'm not surprised. I've only worked with him for a week. I watched him for 20 minutes in our first training session, and I shouted across to Raina, that boy's the real deal. He's the real deal. Everything he does, he's professionalism, his hands, he saves. Of course, I've watched Victor against my teams. I've watched him neutrally when I've sat in the stand. So Victor will have considerable interest around him. So what I've got to do is make sure that I continue to love the kid, because you never say never. And as importantly, have a real good analysis of Dylan Phillips, who was very, very good at Wickham, exceptional at Wickham, got a great move to Rotherham United. I feel sorry for him in a way, and I feel sorry for him because of Victor Johansson. That's how I feel sorry for him, because that boy has been so good. So it's also important now I have 2 weeks. I've had 2 weeks, a week of it's gone, to assess everyone, Rob. So there might be the opportunity in these games as well, if not Saturday, the following Saturday, to have a look at Dylan in action as opposed to just training ground.
And although I'm sure a lot of your attention, Steve's on the last couple of games, have you already got a list of targets for some of that you've handed to the club? And when the team gets that first opportunity to start putting the wheels in motion, is it going to be able to sort of hit the ground running when needs be?
Yeah, of course we have ideas on players that we've come across or who we have been made aware. Certainly since I've came to Rotherham United, we've been made aware that they're available, because your phone rings a lot more when you come to a club of the stature of here. So from that point of view, we have an idea of that. But the most important thing for me as well is to assess fully what we've got, wholly what we've got, and not like any player slip through the net. You know, it's the first thing happened when I went back to Stevenage. I went into Stevenage the first time. I had to have a good assessment of the playing squad, 10 games to go and fight and to stay up. And I wish I had 10 games now. Well, given the deficit, it's probably need more than that, but I wish I'd been here a lot of games ago, and we'd have certainly been, I think, playing championship football. But that's easy said and done. So yeah, we have some names. Rob's got some names. We've sat down as two people that are really determined to get this football club on the right track, and on behalf of the chairman and the board and the fans. So yeah, we're in a good place. We start ahead of the game in our knowledge of players versus some who may say they know them, but you actually know no one.
And the final question, what do you make of Bristol City?
Well, they're an excellent side, aren't they? They're young, they're hungry. They brought the manager in to play in a certain way, in a certain standard. listen, I think it's a football club, by the owner standards, should be really, really contesting for the Premier League this weekend and competing for that level of prize. But they'll continue to improve. They'll continue to add players that work in the way that they want to. But we have to have a game plan. If we don't have a game plan that we can make happen, it will be a long afternoon. I think they're an exceptional side. But listen, we are famous for, as a management team, for going to places like Villa last season in the Cup. We have to have a game plan, and can we carry that game plan out really well? I think we can, and I know certain players that will do it. It's can we get everyone to do it?
Best of luck this weekend, Steve. Great to have you back.
Thank you, Rob.
Hey Steve, you okay?
Hello, Paul.
You touched on it with Rob. Like in the past, you've been famously a fairly combustible figure on the touchline, but that's the people who don't know you. People see you on TV. You get closer to it, and people realise a little bit that's quite a lot goes on in the dressing room. Players play for you, and that's not by accident, is it?
Well, I hope not, Paul. I think we've had the conversation many times. You know, it does go back a long way with me. It's ingrained in me. My father died of that dreaded cancer illness, and on his deathbed days before he died, he got the opportunity to sit with the 5 children, if you like, my mum, and go through what he was advising each of us. And he said to my mum about, Stephen, if you don't know him, you don't like him. If you know him, you love him. And I think that's probably true with our players over the clubs we've managed. It's why on a regular basis I'm getting phone calls and WhatsApps from players from not only from the highest level, but players that are now in their own coaching and management journeys and playing elsewhere. So better for the knowing, and we have a way of getting players to want to play, and I think that's got a lot to do with it. If you get players that want to play for you, that's got a long way to being successful if they've got the ability.
Yeah. The fan at the centre of the medical emergency last week, it sounds like he's recovering quite well. I'm sure you've got something you'd like to say about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the news I got, which is wonderful news, that he's out of the emergency ward, if you like, and he's breathing on his own now, and he's doing well. So we wish the gentleman good recuperations. Hopefully I'll get the chance in the next few weeks to go and have a cup of tea with him and a chat, because I think I've said it many times, but once a mother, always a mother. If a mother bleeds, everyone bleeds, and that was seen on Saturday for me, Paul. You know, the supporters were, the players were off the pitch for what seemed an eternity, over 20 minutes, and people were just hoping and praying and supportive of the medical staff that they could keep him with us. And the great news from a Millers point of view, he's still with us. So I look forward to meeting him and wish them every success. And Sid, if you're tuning into this, everyone's with you. Everyone's with you, Paul. And keep going. Be strong.
Oh, yeah.
Jordan, we'll start by looking back at last weekend's game with Birmingham. Tell us a bit about how you found the game.
Yeah, it was obviously managed to get a point, which is, at the stage of the season, it's always nice to try and get as many points as what we can. Obviously, we know our fate's already been settled, but you still want to try and give as much as you can until the end of the season. So yeah, we're just trying to rack up as many points as we can, and I think it was a good performance, a clean sheet at the end of the day. I said, but yeah, I think we were happy with it.
Of course, it was Steve Evans' first game back in charge. The AFC New York Stadium certainly seems to have more of a buzz around it. Could you sense that leading up to the game and during it as a player? It's
kind of one of them things where I try to ignore all the noise really that goes on around any of the games, home or away, so I try not to distract myself with any of that. So, I'm sure we got a nice reception at the start of the game, but I was kind of in my zone going into the game when it come round, so I didn't really notice it too much, but I'm sure he would have done.
The gaffer reserved some special praise for you when he spoke to the media after the match, praising you for your class and ability. How much of a boost does that provide you mentally? Yeah, it's always nice. It's something that I know what I can bring to a team. Unfortunately, this year it's not been good enough, and I think that's most people combined. But it's always nice to hear a bit of praise. But as I said, I'm delighted with it. I was delighted with how I played, to be honest. Bar like a goal would have been nice, but it is what it is, and hopefully if I can keep carrying on my performances leading into the next season, we'll see where it goes. Staying on the subject of new management, both Steve Evans and Paul Rayner have had a few training sessions now to begin to instill their ideas into the group. How have you found life under the new regime so far, and does it encourage you for the future?
It's always encouragement when a new manager comes in. It's you get quite a good buzz about the place because it's a new turnover, it's new staff, it's everything that comes with it. So there's always a positive mood about the camp. I'd say training's been good since we've come in, but yeah, it's quite tough at this stage of the season with what's happened this season to come in and try and lift it with 3 games to go. So it's one of them things where we probably won't see the best of it now. It'll probably be more so this next season coming, but it's one of them that it's probably exciting for the club, yeah.
You may or may not have seen, but we recently published our shortlist for the goal of the season, and amongst the 5 nominees you featured twice for goals against Preston and Southampton. With 2 games left to play this season, are you keen to add a third to that?
I'd like to, yeah. As I said, I want to try and score as many goals as I can. Unfortunately for me, it's been my lowest scoring year, so I'm disappointed with that. So hopefully I've got 2 games now to try and score as many goals as I can and try and finish higher than what I'm on now.
Bristol City up next, our final away outing of the season. When preparing for games like this, is it a case of scouting out the opposition and training reactively, a case of focusing on what we can do, or a bit of both?
It's more so, we kind of do our analysis and stuff of other teams, but it's more so I think it's more so what we do that's going to affect them rather than what they do is going to affect us. So yeah, it'll be a tough game. We know what we're going to expect from Bristol City. They've been very good this year, so it's one of them things where we're going to have to know what's coming, but ultimately at the end of the day it's about what we're going to do. It's going to affect them. Although
it won't affect the standings, how much of a statement would it be to grab that elusive away victory, especially in the new manager's first away game? Yeah, it would be. It's not been nice not winning away from home for however long it is. We're well aware of that as a team, as a club. We're well aware of it. So it's one of them things where we're trying our hardest to try and get that win, more so for the fans more than anything, because they pay the money for these away days, and hopefully we can give them something to shout and cheer about. As mentioned, there's just 2 games left to play now this season. How important do you see ending the season on a high, and would you say that it can give the side some momentum to take into the summer and into the new season? I'd like to think everyone wants to finish it on a high anyway, regardless. I think, as I said, we've not been good enough this year, and I think for me and my professionalism, I want to finish as well and as good as I can do, and I'm sure that's everybody in that change room wants to finish as well as good as they can do, because ultimately we've not been good enough, and proves it by the league and how far off it we've been. So I think everyone deep down wants to finish as well as they can do, just for themselves and for the club.